in their seats. Looks like we're missing somebody. A couple of three somebodies, two somebodies, three somebodies. So tonight, before we get started with the service, we want to do a birthday blessing for somebody that's having a birthday pretty soon, getting a whole year older. Not today, but tomorrow. So that would be our Pastor Curtis. So if y'all anybody want to start this ball a rolling? Yay! So that got the ball rolling. Who wants to be first with their birthday blessing? Wherever you want to be. Up here would be probably handy. So who wants to go first? Raise your hands. Sure. And we need a microphone runner. So you want to be the microphone runner? Okay. I'll give that.
So happy birthday, Pastor. I can remember back when I first counseled with you, and I realized eventually that I needed to submit myself to your shepherdship. And I remember the difficulty that was, and I stuttered. I stuttered to be able to even say the word submit, but I've got it out, and I've been under your shepherdship for these number of years, and the transformation would never have taken place anywhere else. I know that because you have always been extremely truthful with me. You have given me the hard facts. You have told me things about myself that I didn't want to face. You have done all that type of counseling, which is not easy, but I am so thankful that you did not hold back. And just like Moses, Pastor, I know that there have been times that you have been on your knees and on your face for this little sheep. And I'm so thankful for your shepherdship heart and for your desire above all things to serve your Lord. And that has been the best example of all. I thank you from the bottom of my toes all the way up to the top of my head for being my shepherd. Thank you, because I would not be here today if you were not. Thank you, and happy birthday.
Happy birthday. I was just thinking about, whenever we have somebody new come, it's almost, kind of like a wonder what is going to come out of your mouth, that the Lord's going to show you or whatever. But not in a bad way, but but it also happens before I counsel with you. I feel like there's going to be a surprise in it for me, and sometimes it's good and sometimes not so good, but I'm always changed when I can hear from the Lord. And it just, and I'm so grateful that I have a pastor that cares about my soul. And I don't think I've ever had truly anybody care about my soul like I know you do. And so I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for your friendship. I'm grateful that you speak the truth. I'm grateful that you stand firm. And I'm grateful for the example that you are to all of us. I love you. Happy birthday.
Well, we've done this a couple years now with you. And I simply don't have the words. I don't have the words within me to say what's in me. But next to Jesus Christ, Curtis, you are the most consistent thing in my life. The most consistent human thing in my life is you. And I don't have the words to describe what that means, other than without you, I would truly be lost. So thank you.
So when I first came here, I was so delighted to hear you speak, because I recognized something immediately. Not only was me coming here an answer to prayer, but God had put me under the shepherd who would help nurture me. I needed that so desperately. So when I first heard you speak, I was so excited. I went home, and I can just remember telling everybody, oh, you got to come and hear him. This man has the Spirit of God in him. And not only that, but I had been so hungry for so long that I literally was gobbling up every word. And you know what? I still feel that way, because I know that you're a rare jewel in the world of pastors and shepherds. You really are. And I appreciate so much your leadership and all that you have done to help lead me and guide me further into the truth. And one other thing I want to say as well about just your human side, one thing that strikes me and makes me feel so I have an affinity for you, because you have this side of you that, yes, you're Curtis, and you've got the wisdom, of the Spirit of the living God, and you're able to discern and all these things, but you possess this character that is so childlike that it is just, I love that. I just love it, because I see you sometimes, in your joy. I can see you doing that thing you always talk about, swinging with your feet way high. I don't know why, but I get just so tickled when I see that nature in you, because I think that's so pleasing to the Lord. You're humble, and you're a beautiful person and a wonderful shepherd. Happy birthday.
I frequently have difficulty thinking of all the things that I'd like to share. So I've had a chance to know you, to be one of your John, Peter, and James, so to speak. And all the people who got the wrong impression of who Jesus was were people who were outside. And they misunderstood that he was the most gentle, humble, loving man. And I'm not familiar with, those on the outside, but all I can testify to is the kindness and love that you've consistently shown me. In fact, probably one of the only reasons at times in my life I even thought that the Lord loved me was because I had a physical representation of that love. In over 20 years, I don't have time to talk about the number of ways that the Lord has miraculously used you at just the perfect time. How I even came up to this valley and ended up in an obscure little area where I encountered you. Probably the only person spiritually qualified to handle cases as extreme as mine. The times when I was struck so deep, pierced in my heart with sorrow, and walking up and leaving a church and turning around and seeing that you had made a beeline to exactly where I was, and you didn't say anything. You just hugged me. When I was away for a few years, I didn't even know you knew that I was smoking at the time. This is years and years ago. And you called me up one day, and you prayed for me and said, Tristan, the Lord can help you conquer this. And I quit smoking that day, even though I was so far away. You've always strived to love me, and you've been the father that I always wanted to have. And not just an austere, imperious father. You've been a dad. And I've had so much fun. You've helped me to find the Lord's will in my life. In spite of my stubbornness and my efforts at throwing off every good thing the Lord tried to send my way, you helped me to find Him. And I have the relationship I have with the Lord now, because He has used you. And I'm just so pleased that I can continue to have you. I want you all to myself. And I'm sure other people here understand that too. It's just overwhelming knowing how much the Lord loves us, and that He uses you to help us to see that when we don't always see it for ourselves. Happy birthday.
It just occurred to me a couple minutes ago, the first time I ever saw you, and I'm sure the Lord orchestrated it somehow, but it was quite a while before I actually met you at church, and it was when I worked at Starbucks in probably 2014, 13, and over at the Hagen store in Mount Vernon, and you came in and got a coffee. And I don't even know how I found out at the time that who you were, but for some reason you stood out to me, and I think maybe I mentioned you to Mom, and she told me because she was coming to the church at that time. But as a customer, you stood out to me, and later knowing that the joy of the Lord was just radiating from you, and I just think that, anyway, years later, coming to the church and also recalling the first day that I spoke to you, like actually, besides a greeting, spoke to you. And it was after a Proverbs meeting, and I was having a particularly tough time and leaving the meeting, and Mom said in a conversation that I was, bleeding all over her, and she said, well, do you want to talk to Pastor? And I was like, yeah, I do. And I went back in, and the rest was pretty much history. But I think the reason that I was thinking about that particularly is you are the only person in my entire life that has shown me that in what seems like the biggest of tragedies that you can be going through, you can find joy in the Lord. You can honestly go through those tough times and have joy and rejoice in them because the Lord is using it for one reason or another. And I mean, among all the other things that you've taught me, that's what stands out to me right now in this moment. And I just wanted to share that with you and thank you and tell you that I love you And I'm really grateful that you're my shepherd. Happy birthday.
Well, happy birthday. Sunday you talked about ignorance. And this is how ignorant I was. I grew up thinking that a pastor worked on his sermon Saturday, preached it on Sunday, and played golf twice a week. Having no idea what the life was really like. And I had to think back of, yes, the first time I was introduced to you, and I remember thinking, who's that guy? He's new. I wonder what he does for a living. Little did I know that I would find out that you would laugh with me, cry over me, pray over me, tell me tough stuff, pour your heart out, and do your best to keep me out of perdition. And more than that, encourage me and teach me and show me not to look down, but to look up. And I thought about what you talked about on Sunday, and everything was true. And more. Your ability and your willingness to have no life of your own is astonishing and a testament. I'm amazed that you did it then, you still do it now, and even now, Pastor Curtis, you do it with more fervor than before. I am grateful and pleased at your mercy and your grace, your ability to tell us the truth even if we don't like it. And even if you're afraid to say so, you'll still obey the Lord and do it. Telling us, me, the truth. And yes, it is sometimes very hard to hear, and it's startling, and it's shocking, and it's terrifying. But I appreciate your holy fear of a holy God that enables you and pushes you to be the best you can be. I think perhaps I would agree with Gary, and I would also say that from where I sit next to Jesus, you are all the man there is. Thank you for being our shepherd. Thank you for being my shepherd. And blessed happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Pastor Curtis. First time I met you, you were in coveralls, and you introduced yourself. And I thought, and then Anna told me that you're the pastor, and I went, wow, down to earth guy. But I'm glad I'm here, and I'm glad you're here.
For me, Curtis, the thing that I hold most dear is the people in my life that have given me valuable things that I did not appreciate. And I would say the first one of them would have been my band teacher from high school. The man poured his life out to give me a gift that I can use for the rest of my life, that being music. And I never appreciated how much time and effort he spent on me until it was many years later. And then, fast forward many years, the Lord picked me up by the collar, lifted me up in the air, and dropped me down on the map and put me under your teaching. And to this day, I really don't know what I did to deserve it. When I first came, I spent hours and hours and hours and hours going through every single sermon that the church had. And I would ponder to myself and I would think, wow, what it must have been like to sit under Derek Prince, or wow, what it must have been like to know Ern Baxter. But then it dawned on me that it's not about the name, it's about the value of the eternal teachings that you receive. And I don't know what I did to deserve to be taught by someone of a caliber that the Lord has bestowed upon you. You know, you have never taught me any music, but you have taught me to worship. You didn't tell me to read. You never taught me to read, but you did teach me how to love. You taught me how to be not independent, respectful, honorable, noble, whether actively or passively. They're all things just by me observing and me watching and me absorbing and me sitting still long enough that these attributes that the Lord has given you, and more importantly, these things that the Lord has given you that you have been steadfast and obedient to, are the teachings that I hold most dear. Because not only will they get me through this life, but they will transfer me into the next life. And that's not something that you can buy. So, for the rest of my life, I will never really understand what I did to deserve to be under your teaching. But I will be eternally grateful for all the teachings that you have given me and will give me in the future.
When the scripture says that the fivefold ministry is a gift, I feel like that's such an understatement, because as Frank touched on, you can't, there's nothing that compare to eternity and what you've done in my own spirit to prepare me for eternity. And the word that comes to mind is excellence when I think about you, because in so many areas of your life, you pursue excellence, and like no one I've ever met ever, and how much you love the Lord, and also how much you lay yourself down. You've completely given up your own life, and you've completely wanted and pursued death to your own self, and so that the Lord shines through you. And I thank you so much. I can never repay you for what you've done for me. And I thank the Lord for giving me you. And I know you've said that each one of us displays a facet of the Lord, but I feel like you have so many of those facets that you're a gem all to yourself. And so I just thank you so much for all that you've done and pouring yourself out for me and for my family, and I'm eternally grateful for you. Thank you. Blessings.
the scripture is living and active, and that is the example that you give, Pastor. And I just been reading Psalms 23, and to me it's you, it's King David, but this is you. You say, "Vindicate me, O Lord. I have walked in my integrity, and I have trusted in the Lord without wavering. Examine me, O Lord, and try me. Test my mind and my heart. For your loving kindness is before my eyes, and I have walked in your truth. I do not sit with deceitful men, nor will I go with pretenders. I hate the assembly of evildoers, and I will not sit with the wicked. I shall wash my hands in innocence, and I will go about your altar, O Lord, that I may proclaim with the voice of thanksgiving and declare all your wonders." You do all of this, Pastor. You do all of this. O Lord, I love the habitation of your house and the place where your glory dwells. It irradiates from you. This verse does. Do not take my soul away along with sinners, nor my life with the men of bloodshed, in whose hands is wicked schemes, and his right hand is full of bribes. And you've that experienced. And you have experienced that. But as for me, I shall walk in my integrity. You walk in your integrity. Redeem me and be gracious to me. Your foot stands on a level place. In the congregations I shall bless the Lord. And this is what you do. Thank you and happy birthday.
The amount of gratitude I didn't think that I would ever be so grateful for having a man in my life. With the Lord's help, you have brought the broken pieces of my family back together. And you've changed each and every one of us, or been the special tool that the Lord needed to change each and every one of us into somebody that I never thought any of us could ever be. And the joy that you have taught us all to possess is life-changing. I've never known so many people to be so happy and joyful all the time, despite the horrible things in this world. You come into this place and it's just a beaming light of joy. And it's because of your diligence of listening to the Father. And I thank you for not letting the enemy take control. You're a wonderful, wonderful man. And I hope that I do get to spend eternity right along next to you with the Lord. Happy birthday.
Before I met you, I didn't know that there was such a thing as a real man of God. I had heard about godly men, but that's different. I just knew of what I had seen, and men who were quote unquote pastors, I just thought they were better at faking it than the rest of us, better at hiding who they really were, what they really did. But you are totally transparent. There's none of that. And if sitting under the word orated by you, of the Lord's word being given through you, I had never experienced that before. And I had gone to church before, and it was super lame. There was not even a whisper of, it was completely dead. So if sitting under the Lord's word through you didn't completely have me convinced, going into private counsel with you absolutely solidified that. Like, I had spent years going to psychologists and therapists, and thousands of dollars wasted. But counseling with you, there's nothing like it. It's, you hear from the Lord. You say things that I'm just like, I didn't tell you that, you know? And the Lord just knows how to get to the point, or how you can hear him so perfectly well that you can so delicately cut in between like the muscle and the fascia without wounding me to the point that the Lord knows how to do, you know how to do that in the Lord, in the Spirit. And everything I have in my life is because of you. So, anything I am now is because of you. You're the dad I never had, and I love our relationship. And you and Jackie are just, I'm just gonna be buried with you guys. So, just thank you, and I love you.
Pastor, I am, among most of us here, am very thankful for the sessions that we've been through, the talks that we've had that have really helped me through a lot of things. And I know I had one period in my life where I was growing further away from the Lord, but it's because of you intervening that really brought me back. It's because of how you helped me. I just feel that whenever I'm around you, I feel that joy that radiates off you, where all my stress melts away. And it's like I can feel his presence whenever I'm around you. And when I was little, I didn't know how to explain it. I just felt so happy around you when I was little. But now I know it's because of Jesus who's in you. And whenever you speak, when you speak, I can feel his gentleness in your voice. And then there are times when I can feel the mightiness of him in you when you preach. It blows me away. And sometimes I'll just want to hug you or be near you because it's either I'm stressed that day or I'm having a rough time. I could talk to you about anything, and it would just make me feel better. I'm really thankful for what you've done in my life. Really. Happy birthday. I love you.
Happy birthday, Pastor. I've had the luxury to not have to go through church after church after church to find a real man of God. I've always been here. The only other time I ever went to a different church was my daycare lady took me there when I was like 3 to her church. And I just remember feeling off. Like, this isn't normal. And I'm so grateful that you have decided to stay faithful to the Lord and follow his instructions. And because of that, his presence resides here. And especially when I was younger, this was the only peaceful place for me. And I didn't have to worry. I didn't know what it was that made me so calm until I was older. And I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the sessions we have where you help me sort the spiritual and emotional stuff as I'm getting older. And you are one of my spiritual grandfathers in this church. And I love you and Jackie very much. So happy birthday.
You are such a strange, amazing creation of God that I've never met anyone like you, another being like you, that you could grow up and go through so many things and not turn out bitter or a criminal or angry or short-tempered or anything. That all the things you've been through in your life, that any other man in the world would have had a chip the size of Texas on their shoulder, and you have nothing, and nothing phases you. That no matter what anyone does going through rebuilding this church, mistakes that are made in the garden, things that are wasted, things that are done, it doesn't matter. That someone who so selflessly gives so much and somehow has more and more to give, be it money, be it supplies, be it cars, whatever it is, that somehow you give it, but you never run out. And it's an amazing thing. And I've met other men that have called themselves God's representatives and had members of my family, and none of them have anything to show like that. They've all had to fight and work and struggle and battle and still didn't have much. And it just flows in for you. And and you don't even ask for it. You don't look for it. It's just there. Because at some point in time, somebody needed it and God told you to give it to them. And because you did, he gave you more. I'm just very, very lucky that I've been able to have you in my life to watch this. I have a very analytical mind, and if I can easily explain things, I usually cast them off and put them aside and just say, okay, well, there's that thing. What's the next thing? And that's kind of the way that I go through life, is figuring things out, understanding it, and then going on to the next thing. And the life in this church and watching you with this strange menagerie of people that have come together into this field with this shepherd is just the one thing that I cannot explain. And no matter how hard I try, the only thing that gets me is closer to the Lord. Thank you. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. I don't really know what to say. I got acquainted with you a little bit in Proverbs. I enjoy the little stories that you would give. And then at some point later on, when my pastor passed away, the Holy Spirit just brought me here. And I've really enjoyed your sermons. If you have something direct to say, you do it. If you have something to laugh about, you do it. I mean, your sermons are sort of a mixed personality as far as you go along with the scriptures, and a lot of joy, but I just enjoy the church, and something that I really admire you for is when we got this building, watching you hours and hours and hours putting in on this building to get it ready for us. Yeah, a lot of other people helped you, but you were the main instrument of this getting everything going. And a lot of pastors wouldn't do that. They would just do their preaching and studying and whatever, but they wouldn't get their hands dirty and do what you were doing. And you're going to have some crowns in heaven. Yeah, beautiful crowns. And God loves you so much. And another thing that attracts me to this church is everybody has different personalities, but everybody gets along. You know, there's a lot of joy here. And a lot of that comes from you because you're the head of the church. But, yeah, I just don't know what to say. I'm not very good at talking over a microphone anyway, but I just love you, and I just thank you for everything, and good and well faithful servant. That's what you are. Okay.
I don't know what I could possibly add to what everybody has already said, other than I know it all to be true because I live with you. I see what you look like in the morning when you wake up, and when you are under stress, and when you are tired, and when you things aren't working out, or you've lost something and can't find it. And I've seen you in all those situations and circumstances, and it all is true. It's true of the joy that you have, of the integrity, of just the Christ likeness of who you are is always in all of that. And I count myself the most fortunate woman on the planet in all of time, beginning and end of time, to have you as my husband. And I'm ever so grateful that I was obedient to the Lord, and as well as you were, to get married. And I can't even imagine the person I would be today had I not said yes to God, and I do to you, because you have been an instrument in my life too, that God has used to help me confront my sinful nature, helping me to expose my flesh and and to deal with the exposing the enemy's voice, helping me understand how to recognize his voice. And I don't know of anybody that would have ever taught me that, much less shown it to me, much less sat through horrible conversations with me to help me finally see that it was the enemy's voice I was listening to. I was believing his lies, and I see you do that with countless people, and I know that is probably the most, that's probably the hardest thing you do. It's probably the most distasteful thing that you do, but yet you do that, and there's more than anything else that brings freedom, more than anything else that brings transformation in people's lives, is helping us to identify the voice of the enemy. And of all you brought this up just recently in one of your teachings about what your name means, the courteous judge, obstructor of the enemy, and that is who you are. It's not only just who God created you to be, it's who he empowers you to be. And I think back 41 years ago when we got married, and at the time it didn't even dawn on me that might be a day that you wouldn't decide to go on with God, or that you might not continue in your walk with the Lord or with me. It just never even dawned on me that could be a possibility, and yet I've seen people that I never thought that would be a possibility in their life, that they wouldn't continue walking on with God because he had shown himself so real to them and so powerful and so mighty and done such fabulous works. It never would have dawned on me that they would have just said, yeah, I got far enough, that's all I'm going. Or that they would have said, yeah, I'm tired of this relationship, and I'm not going to, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm going to find another spouse, or I just never would have dawned on me that those things were even a possibility, and yet now I know that they could have been very possible. And I'm so very, very grateful that you have never even had a thought in your head about not continuing in your relationship with the Lord, about not continuing to be obedient to his voice, about not doing his work, no matter what that looked like or how you were going to have to do it, or in what capacity that he was using you. None of it has ever mattered to you. You are always going to be doing the Lord's work. And I think by now you're probably always going to do. And I'm so grateful, because I would have been heartbroken had you decided not to continue on with him or with me. And I love you so much. I'm so grateful for the lives that God has given us. And I'm so thankful for your love, how you cherish me, how your patience with me. I feel like our lives together are just getting sweeter and sweeter as the days go by. And now we're about to embark on another adventure, another new life. And I'm looking forward to seeing what this next chapter has for us. And I do know these things that are secure is your love for the Lord and your love for me. And I couldn't be more blessed, because that's all that matters. Happy birthday.
Absolutely. Frank, will you read what other people said before we kill the broadcast? Sure.
Patty is watching online, and Patty wanted to tell you that your commitment to consistency, to consistently deliver the truth, is to be honored and welcomed. And I thank you and I love you very much. She said that with one eye.